glory, hallelujah.
Black soldiers first put their boots to soil for service in the late 1700s following the Emancipation Proclamation.
Glory, glory, hallelujah.
Among those soldiers were barbers, boatmen, and carpenters. Even fathers and sons were enlisted together. A quarter of them black soldiers from slave states.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
As wars were fought, black soldiers made advancements for not only the country, but for the culture.
From the Buffalo Soldiers to the Tuskegee Airmen and the countless number of groups in between, we honor and thank you.
This is for the black soldier, a fight for freedom and respect.
His truth is marching on.
Hey, Soulmates, thank you so much for joining us for this special Memorial Day edition of Fox Soul's Black Report. I am Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. We are honored to sit behind this desk and bring to you the Black Soldier, the fight for freedom and respect.
We're going to bring you our news, our views, and our voice.
You know, May is a national month for several causes, but today we recognize May as National Military Appreciation Month.
And this Memorial Day, we are honoring not just the countless lives lost, but also the ones still living, carrying on the legacy of our fallen ancestors. We're going to take an in-depth look at groups like the Buffalo Soldiers, the 688 Battalion, and the legendary Tuskegee Airmen.
And speaking of the Tuskegee Airmen, they were the first fighter pilot squadron made up entirely of black aviators.
And right here in Detroit, we are blessed to have a national museum honoring these American heroes. They're holding a special event for their organization, and you, Soulmates, can help support.
That's right. Our friend Josh Landon from Fox Detroit shares more.
Yes, we are at the city airport on Detroit's east side, where you had the museum honoring, teaching the history of the Tuskegee Airmen. And this is a great opportunity, a great place to learn about aviation and find a career. I'm joined by Dr. Brian Smith, the president of the Tuskegee Airmen National Museum. Hello to you, Dr. Smith.
Good morning to you, Josh. Thanks again for being in our museum.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to come here. Believe it or not, this museum has been here at the city airport since 2007. But also, believe it or not, a lot of people still don't know.
That's correct. This is a very unique museum in that we look backward to the history of the Tuskegee Airmen. We stand on their shoulders and point young people to the future and the jobs that they can have in aviation and aerospace science.
Right on. And we are here right now because something is happening tonight to get more people involved.
Yes, we're trying to get the business leaders in Detroit to come out and see what we're doing here, and hopefully they'll invest in the youth in the city of Detroit, help us prepare them for their careers in aviation and aerospace science.
What's the name of tonight's event?
It's called Perseverance, a look at the history of the Tuskegee Airmen and their perseverance in the face of the enemy as well as racism here at home.
Okay, with the effort to get more youth involved, you are in aviation, you teach it, you're in it, you know all of the ins and outs, is the bottom line, but you're getting a lot of pressure from the industry. More youth need to get involved, a lot of opportunity that's not being taken advantage of at the moment.
That's correct. I'm being approached by the major airlines, even the military, and the historically black colleges that actually have aviation programs. Send me students. The Air Force and military are asking for potential pilots, even airplane maintainers. They're looking for people because the airlines are actually sucking up all of the available pilots, paying them, six-figure salaries. A pilot at the end of his career, $500,000 a year.
Wow.
That's more than most doctors make in a year. And you get to fly airplanes all around the country. So we're looking for students who can fulfill those roles as well as roles that don't require flying. A lot of our youth in the city of Detroit are afraid of flying, but there's nothing to be afraid of. It's safer than driving a car. So come on out on Thursday evenings, see what we're doing here, get involved, choose a career, and then live a life happily ever after.
Right on, brother. And with getting involved, how can people get more information?
You can go to our website, TuskegeeMuseum.org, or call our number 313-849-8843.
Okay, and once again, this is an opportunity that will not be there forever.
That's correct. There's a window of opportunity that will close. We need you to come out and get involved and have a successful career in aviation or aerospace science.
All right, Dr. Smith, thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Once again, the Tuskegee Airmen National Museum is here on Detroit's east side at the city airport, Hangar 13, Hangar 14, and you can come learn much more and find a new career if you are a young person interested. On Detroit's east side, Josh Landon.
Our thanks to Josh Landon for that report.
Indeed.
Now, who knew pilots made $500,000 a year?
Yeah, some of them, are up there. And I would like a lot of people, big takeaway for me is that flying is actually safer than driving. I think that's a great point to make, because a lot of people, there's a fear of flying, and just like there's a fear of the water, if you will, but flying has always been deemed to be much, much safer than getting behind a car. So I hope that may, be a factor in these young people deciding to get into aviation. But our mayor, one of our great mayors, infamous mayors here in Detroit, Mayor Coleman Young, he was a Tuskegee Airman. So that rich history has always been a part of Detroit's history, not just with these museums and programs, but we had a mayor for over 30 years who was a Tuskegee Airman. So you couldn't help but to know and understand, that entire movement and how incredibly intelligent and fierce, and how much they persevered, not just with discrimination as they walked down the street as civilians, but also, as military personnel. They face so much as well, and it just blows my mind what they were able to overcome.
And that's why I'm so glad that we're doing this special today to really shine a light on the Black soldier, because that sort of double consciousness that Langston Hughes wrote so beautifully about, that's real for us. It's been real for us historically. It's still real right now. And so I'm just really glad we can go to the Tuskegee Museum. There's so many great museums here in the greater Detroit area. A lot of people think of the Motown Museum, which is great, but they may not know about the Tuskegee Museum and the opportunity to check that out. But it's also great to see, that businesses in the area are having a bit more skin in the game when it comes to investing in museums like this and opportunities for young people. Everybody's talking about, some of the violence that's plaguing cities across the country, right? And what's going on with our young people? Well, are you investing in our young people? And so it's good to see that there are some businesses that are stepping up to do exactly that.
And the level of awareness of programs like this. All right, so on this Memorial Day, we are paying a visit to the Black Heritage Museum of Arlington.
That's right. Their exhibits and programs teach about the history and achievements of African Americans in Arlington and Northern Virginia communities.
Right here we are looking at the African American Heritage Water Trail.
On an unusually warm winter day, we meet historian Lillian Holden along the banks of the Little Calumet River, a waterway that flows through hundreds of years of African American history.
It is a 12-mile long water trail that covers at least 2 centuries worth of history, ranging from the Underground Railroad, the Civil Rights Movement, the birth of the environmental justice movement.
In warmer weather, the conservation group Open Lands conducts tours of the history trail by boat.
Every summer, we have a series of river engagements to interpret the history that is associated with the African American Heritage Water Trail.
And a big piece of that history is right here, where a marker has been placed at the corner of 134th Place and St. Lawrence.
We are standing on the Ton Farm site, which is a part of the Underground Railroads.
The Tons were a Dutch immigrant family who owned a farm on the banks of the Little Calumet. Their house became an important stop on the Underground Railroad, hiding and harboring African Americans fleeing slavery in the South.
I'm a retired sergeant with Chicago Police Department.
Ronald Gaines owns Chicago's finest marina, which now sits on the site of the Ton family farm. He says slaves seeking freedom would be taken in covered wagons to Chicago and then on to Detroit so they could escape into Canada.
Even though we don't think of slavery as an issue in Chicago or up north, but you had to be out of the United States to be actually free. So you had to leave the home of the free to be free.
To get to the Ton Farm, African Americans would cross the Little Calumet River here, near the Indiana Avenue Bridge. Abolitionist George Dalton, who founded the nearby village bearing his name, operated a ferry that carried the fleeing slaves across the river. Heading west, the historic water trail passes through the village of Robbins, one of the oldest incorporated black communities in the United States. In 1931, Robbins opened the first black-owned airport and flight school, which led to some of the country's most famous war heroes.
It was a pathway to some pilots who have flown as Tuskegee Airmen during World War II.
And for one more piece of African American history, let's go back to Ronald Gaines Marina, which has been on this site for decades and provided a home for black boaters who were often excluded from other boat clubs.
And so people can come out and enjoy and see the south side of Chicago, see the beauty and what we have to offer out here as well.
Does it always look this nice?
No, it has not always looked this nice.
Adela Bass is a community organizer who's helping to restore the Little Calumet. She grew up in the Altgeld Gardens public housing project, steps from the river, and remembers when this old landfill was still in use, leaching poison into the water.
We call it the hills of toxicity.
Now, with the Heritage Water Trail designation, the Little Calumet is coming back to life.
It's a place within a place. It separates you from the city life and gives you a taste of nature.
And brings to life 2 centuries of Chicago black history.
2 centuries of Chicago black history. I mean, Courtney, who knew that the Underground Railroad also went through Chicago and Detroit? Right? I think a lot of people think about the Underground Railroad as going along the East Coast, through Philadelphia, into Canada that way. And so I love that they are revealing that part of history for us. But remember when the brother in this piece said that our folks had to leave the home of the free to be free. And it's just a stunning reminder of how far we've come, but also how much we have to lose. We don't get a grip on some of the happenings that are occurring right now in our country.
Yeah, and a lot of these Midwest cities, for the southern folks, we'd be up north, but a lot of these Midwestern cities, you're right, played an intricate part in the Underground Railroad, in particular Buffalo, with its proximity to Canada. As far as those taking that route to freedom, if you will. But, just the knowledge and the awareness or lack thereof. I spent a lot of time in Chicago and I had no idea about the history of the Little Calumet, and I lived right along because it just runs throughout the suburbs of and on into the Northwest Indiana, and I lived in those areas, and I had no idea. I used to, be in your car and just ride, and it's just another, body of water. But who knew the significance and the depth of what that body of water meant and continues to mean? So, when we take a moment to just breathe and have days like this to remember, and also gain some perspective and some further knowledge of things that kind of like are right there in front of our face. It's so interesting to me.
Sometimes some of the best history is hiding in plain sight.
That's right. There's more to come on this special Memorial Day edition of Fox Soul's Black Report.
That's right. We'll introduce you to those responsible for a new Veterans Monument honoring both fallen and living soldiers. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. We'll be right back.
The African American Veterans Monument has been proposed to recognize the service and sacrifice of African American veterans dating back to the Revolutionary War in 1775.
There is no monument anywhere in the nation that honors them all at the same time.
From our research, we found out this type of monument will be the first in the country.
That's overdue. It should have been done 200 years ago. Too many people were left out of history books.
We're correcting a situation where information is missing.
It's important for children to know the history of all people in this United States.
This is the home for it. It's a piece of military history that needs to be talked about. The Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park is the place to do that.
The monument is at approximately 1,200 square foot area with 12 concrete cylinders that represent candles.
Mothers would place candles in the window when their soldiers had gone off to war. These pillars represent those candles. Walking through the monument, You can not only experience the times of conflict, but you can experience the times of peace as well.
Oh, it's going to make me feel proud. I didn't get that ticker tape parade when I came back from Nam, and this will be my version of my ticker tape.
It's going to be a teaching instrument for those that follow behind me. They will not be denied history as I was when I was growing up.
All of us in Buffalo and Western New York should support this monument.
Everybody should support this. The best thing we can do as Americans is understand our history. And I think if we understood that a lot better than we do, there would not be as much separatism and racism as there is. And so the more history we know, the better off we are as a people.
And that beautiful African-American Veterans Monument you just saw there debuted to the public less than a year ago in Buffalo, New York. Here to talk more about the importance of this monument and how we soulmates can support it is Warren Galloway and Robin Hodges. Thank you both so much for being here, and thank you first so much for your service.
Thank you. Nice for being here.
Indeed. Well, let me start, Warren, by saying I've been to Buffalo. I've walked the memorial. It is absolutely breathtaking. I think it should be a national park, but we're gonna work towards that. Let's start by talking about the origin, the story behind the monument. We know it was unveiled in September of 2022, but how did this all start?
This all started with a community meeting that was called by the Assemblywoman Crystal Peoples, the majority leader of the New York State Assembly. She called some people together. We formed this committee about 7 years ago. We've been meeting ever since. And based on that meeting, we came up with a budget, a design, and a way to raise the money. And on September 24th of 2022, we were able to unveil it.
Amazing. Robin, when you became a part of this board with the Veterans Monument, what was the most exciting part of orchestrating this tribute and making sure this monument was erected?
The most exciting part for me is that to be just a part of history, to be working with so many wonderful historians and researchers and sociologists who helped to pull all of the information together. I learned so much working on this entire project, and I'm still learning.
Absolutely. Warren or Robin, talk to us a little bit more in detail about the design and the concept behind the monument. Like I said, I've walked it, and it is absolutely breathtaking. It's right off the water, and it really does take your breath away.
No, I think we'll both answer this question. The monument was basically designed based on meetings. Mm-hmm. You know, we were trying to come up with an idea of building a monument, and many times, you know, you have a soldier with a weapon. And we understand that a lot of us were veterans. If you have an M16, that basically interacts with Vietnam. Then people want to know about how are you going to honor the women. So the more research we did, then we figured out and we found out that many people don't realize that African Americans participated in every war that this country has been in.
Indeed.
And one of the designs came up with these columns, and the committee really thought this would help answer the questions. And then we just decided to go with this idea with columns, ideas of brick pavers with African-American veterans' names on it. And then we realized that there was more than just a need to honor veterans, but there was a need to educate the community, educate people about the impact and the participations that African-Americans did.
Yeah, Robin, your take on the design and the detail and your perspective on that journey?
The design, there are 12 pillars, as Warren has alluded to, each representing one of the 12 campaigns that African Americans have fought in, starting with the Revolutionary War. And each pillar is positioned according to the longitude and latitude coordinates of when and where each war took place. Mm-hmm. And the space in between the pillars represent peacetime. They also represent candles. Candles were burned in windows when servicemen were away at war, and their families put candles in the windows as a beacon to lead them home. So the pillars actually light up at night.
Beautiful. Reminds me of a song. The lyric says, keeping a light shining in the window.
Yeah.
Wow, that is beautiful. So, Robin, how has the response been since the public unveiling? Since the unveiling, what has the response been from the public?
The response has been good. We would like to have a bigger response, because I don't think that many people across this country know about this monument. This monument is for all African American veterans that have served this country, not just Buffalonians, not just veterans who are deceased. This is a monument, which means it's for both living and deceased. I, as you alluded to, am a veteran, and so I do have a brick, as you're looking at right now, as part of the foundation of the monument, which the interior portions are made in the shape of dog tags.
Yeah, Warren, talk to us about how we can also continue to support the monument and help bring about some awareness.
Well, I think the first thing is just talk about it and share the information. But also at the same time, the monument is we are selling brick pavers. And these pavers are for families or friends to basically buy one and put a name of an African-American veteran or active duty soldier on it, and there'll be a permanent display. So whenever they come to visit, they will be able to find their brick and in honor of their veteran that they bought the brick for. But this monument, as you talked about at the beginning, we are working very hard to make this not only a Buffalo Parks monument, location. We're trying to make it a national landmark.
That's right.
We feel that this type of monument should be a national landmark, and to raise the issue of what African Americans did in the war. Because people got to understand, we fought 2 wars. Not only did we have to fight the enemy of America, but then when we came home, we had to fight the enemy of racism in this own country. So we are very proud of the education component of this, because we think that this will help people understand the magnificent involvement that African Americans did in this country.
Absolutely, and I'm inviting all of my fellow native Detroiters to make a road trip on up to Buffalo, New York, and definitely partake in this monument. Robin Hodges and Warren Galloway, thank you so much for joining us on this special Memorial Day edition of Fox Soul's Black Report. Again, thank you so much for your service. We will definitely be in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wowie kazowie. I was just in Buffalo not too long ago. I was getting my passport renewed,
right.
Remember?
I remember.
Well, it won't be too long till I'm right back there in Buffalo to check this out. I'm telling you, that looked incredible.
It's
beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations to everybody who was a part of that. Coming up, we continue to honor the sacrifice of Black service members.
How the 688 Battalion made history and how they're being honored today. Soulmates, we will be right back.
The House passed a bill to award the Congressional Gold Medal to the 688 Central Postal Director Battalion. The battalion was made up of 855 African American women sent to England to serve during World War II.
They delivered mail to soldiers overseas, clearing a 2-year backlog. There are only believed to be about 7 surviving members, including retired Army Major Fannie McClendon. She joined the Army when she was just 19 years old. She then later joined the Air Force, where she was the first female commander of an all-male squadron with the Strategic Air Command.
And there's one nonprofit organization built to elevate the public education around the unique history of Black veterans in the U.S. Their name is the Black Veteran Project. And here to talk more about their efforts is their co-founder, Richard Brookshire. Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, brother.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. And so tell us about the Black Veterans Project and why your mission is more important now than ever.
Yeah, so the project, it turns 5 actually in November, and I still have to pinch myself sometimes when I think about the fact that 5 years has passed. And for the vast majority of that time, we've been focused on research, looking at racial disparities in the allocation of veterans benefits, understanding that there's also been a long legacy of benefit obstruction, kind of really starting at the turning point of following World War II, when Black vets didn't get equal access to the education and housing benefits that so many white veterans were afforded, and helped to really bolster the building of the white American middle class. And you go into the Vietnam era and the proliferation and disproportionality of bad paper discharges. And even today, a recent report came out about 4 or 5 months ago by the Connecticut Veterans Legal Center that showed that Black veterans who serve today are still 1.5 to 2.3 times more likely to get out of the military and not have access to their benefits, which are housing, education, vocational training, healthcare, disability compensation, these things that can give Black vets a pathway to the middle class. And so this project is really about reckoning with that, about forcing some accountability around that, and really about envisioning a case for repair.
Mm-hmm. Now, and speaking of repair, internal documents from the Department of Veterans Affairs shows that Black veterans are much less likely to get approved for benefits for conditions like PTSD. Can you tell us what restorative justice looks like for Black vets should your lawsuit against the VA succeed?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step is transparency. I think that Black vets for many decades have known that there had been discrimination in their access to equitable care and benefits under the VA. And so much of what this work through Black Veterans Project has been is about getting our hands on the real figures, wanting to make sure that there is a reckoning with history in a real way, and a preservation of that history, especially at a time when we know that history is under attack. This lawsuit is really trying to clear a path for Black vets to be able to sue the VA should they feel as though they've been subjected to racial discrimination, and have a pathway to be able to get compensated for that, to be able to have their records reviewed, to be able to have their benefits extended to them and or their descendants, right? And it's a complicated and certainly not an easy process, but we are fortunate enough to have established a very deep collaboration with Yale Law School, one of the best law schools in the country, who has an incredible veterans legal clinic that hopefully they'll be able to come on at some point and speak more in depth about the legal case.
And you know, the Black Veterans Project, you know, y'all fight for veterans like Conley Monk Jr., a Vietnam vet who's been denied his benefits for nearly 50 years. How common do Black vets like Monk fall between the cracks? And is the Biden-Harris administration doing anything to address this?
Yeah, it's more common than most folks think. And I think that part of what came out of our FOIA efforts, which took several years, it took 3 years to try to get the VA to be transparent about what it knew, right? And one of the biggest disparities that we were able to find was actually around PTSD, which Conley Monk suffers from. And Black vets were experiencing almost a 30% greater denial rate for access to disability compensation for PTSD, right? And these are thousands and thousands of dollars that you can receive every month, right? On top of a host of other benefits. And so Conley's story, I think, is emblematic, but it's certainly not unique. And Conley's, I think I'm following in his footsteps and standing on the shoulders of many Black vets who have been advocating and pushing for this kind of work for many, many, many decades. And he's been working with Yale Law School since the 90s, helping Black vets and white vets who were unjustly blocked out of their benefits gain access to those benefits. But all the while, he didn't have access to it himself.
In our remaining minutes, I've got to ask you, Representative Cori Bush recently introduced a resolution on reparations for Black Americans. We certainly have been reporting on the movement around reparations right here on Fox Soul's Black Report for quite a while now. Why did the Black Veterans Project participate in the Capitol Hill press briefing about this bill, and what difference would this bill make for Black veterans?
Cori Bush's bill, I think, is incredibly important because it puts a numerical value that has never been introduced on the Hill before, saying that there is a racial wealth gap that needs to be contended with. It is a byproduct of a long legacy of very intentional race-based policies that have created and fostered an economic landscape that has been fundamentally unfair for Black folk. So that's why we participated. But more importantly, one of the bills that we are very much in staunch support of is the GI Bill Restoration Act, which was a bill that was originally introduced last Congress by Congressman Clyburn and Moulton, and also supported by Senator Warnock and reintroduced this past February in this Congress. And that looks to give descendants of Black World War II veterans who lost out on billions and billions of dollars in economic mobility and economic prosperity over the generations because they didn't get access to VA home loans, they didn't get equitable access to education benefits, and we're very much in part and parcel to wanting to see that a bill like that pass.
And where can people go quickly to follow the Black Veterans Project and support the movement that you're leading?
Thank you. You can visit us at www.blackveteransproject.org. You can follow us on social, Black Veterans Project on Instagram, Black Vet Project on Twitter. You can keep up with me, Rich Brookshire, on Instagram. You can, continue to hopefully watch this show. So I'll make another appearance and give y'all some updates.
Our thanks to you, Richard Brookshire, co-founder of the Black Veterans Project. Happy Memorial Day, brother. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, the good, wonderful work that they're doing. Big ups to them. All right, we wish them all the best. Still ahead, it's a high-flying legacy.
That's right. When we return, we remember the last Tuskegee Airmen in Illinois. You're watching a special Memorial Day edition of FOXSOUL's Black Report. Welcome back to this special Memorial Day edition of FOXSOUL's Black Report. Oscar Lawton Wilkerson Jr. was the last living Tuskegee Airman at 96 years old.
Wow, his family says he began his Tuskegee training just 10 days after graduation. In 2007, he was among about 300 surviving members of the Black Aviation Combat Unit and was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Wilkerson passed of natural causes, and today we honor him.
I always wanted to fly since being quite young. I used to build model airplanes.
It was a dream that became reality for Oscar Lawton Wilkerson Jr., the last known surviving Tuskegee Airman from the state of Illinois.
He wouldn't brag about his intelligence, but if you spent some time talking with him, you would suddenly realize how smart he was.
A graduate of Bloom High School in Chicago Heights, he passed the training program for the Air Force. He was trained to fly the B-25 bomber right after World War II in the country's first Black Aviation Combat Unit, but never flew during combat. He served in other positions and was given an honorable discharge.
When Wilk got out of the service, he applied to all the airlines, and they all refused him. He even received a letter from one of them saying, well, at this time, we are not hiring Negroes.
Born in 1926, that experience of racism wasn't new to the man affectionately called Wilk.
We had segregation back in Chicago Heights where I was born.
Wilk became the vice president of the Dodo Birds Chicago chapter, named after the extinct bird that can't fly, but Wilk never allowed societal woes to ground his plans. He owned a Cessna 172. He studied in Chicago and New York and became a freelance photographer. He was an insurance agent, the first Black driver for South Suburban Safeway lines, a radio host, and a program director.
He would take the time to teach the next generation what they needed to know so that they could display excellence too.
A devoted Christian, Wilkerson spent 18 years as a member of Hillcrest Baptist Church in Country Club Hills. The veteran died one day before his 97th birthday last month. His life mission was to educate children and encourage them to go into aviation. His pastor says he encouraged everyone to stay the course.
Oh.
A Renaissance man indeed.
For the ages.
I mean, he has contributed so much to our country from his distinguished service during World War II. But, even just facing that discrimination after he got out of the military. It's probably hard for some of our soulmates to imagine, somebody coming out of the military and wanting to get a job with an airline and having airlines say, we don't hire Negroes, right? That's not that long ago. And so, we can't get too comfortable, with a historic first here and a historic first there. We've got to keep it coming. And hopefully so many more of us will take the baton that he's passed to us to continue the fight.
And this group of extraordinary men are kind of sort of just now getting their props. The level of intelligence and detail and perseverance and education and training, and you can go on and on and on, that it took to fly an aircraft in the midst of battle. And if I'm not mistaken, based upon my studies, and research on the Tuskegee Airmen, they were like undefeated up in the air. And they actually helped the other battalions, the white battalions, do what they needed to do in support and rescue and save them in the midst of battle. And their story went unsung for so long. So as a culture, we have to continue, as we lose this generation, we have to continue to live in this legacy. But, for an airline just to say, no, we don't do Negroes, and just dismiss all of that, intelligence and all of that know-how and what this man could have brought to that airline as far as know-how, and maybe teach their other pilots, was just so dismissive and just such a just disgraceful, really.
Yeah. But you know what? When I think about his story, I think of folks like Omar Brock, who's been no stranger to FOXSOUL's Black Report, who is teaching kids in Georgia.
That's right.
About aviation, getting them their credentials so that they might have a shot, at doing the thing that this distinguished gentleman, this honorable Tuskegee Airman had aspired to do.
Which brings the discrimination, back full circle, that you now have a new generation of folks, living in that legacy. All right, keeping with the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen, there's a Detroit group taking young students to new heights.
That's right. The Tuskegee Airmen National Museum is using a $500,000 grant to train new classes of students to become pilots. Take a look.
Sun is shining in terms of the historic nature of this program.
A special day at the Tuskegee Airmen National Museum at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. Thanks to a federal grant worth $500,000, students in Detroit are given an opportunity to get a head start on a high-flying career.
Our hope is that if you start with us when school is out, by the time school starts in the fall, you will have your pilot license.
It's a high status after coming back to school from summer vacation. Students have the opportunity to focus in 3 areas of aviation: flying planes, piloting drones, and aerospace engineering. Kids as young as 10 can begin in the aerospace engineering program and start building rockets and drones. Students between 14 and 16 are taught to fly glider planes. And at 16, you can start making good money by obtaining a drone license.
That means you can go out and get money from people who want you to take pictures of their buildings, crops, pipelines, crowds. There's a lot of first responder work using drones. So there's many opportunities and almost 6-figure salaries at 18.
The programs at the school are life-changing. Brandon Jones is a graduate. He grew up watching Northwest airplanes fly over his house at 7 Mile in Livernois. Now he's an instructor pilot at the Selfridge Air National Guard Base.
Showing them that if you can fly an airplane, if you can solo an airplane, no matter what you go into, if you can solo at 16, the world is in your hands.
The programs are founded on the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen. The group of African American military pilots fought in World War II and were the first to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces. They received praise for their excellent combat record, and now the future is bright for the upcoming generation. Detroit is the only site in Michigan selected to receive the award.
We pray God's blessings upon this grant, and may it be the start of something bigger and better for our children.
We don't just stand on their shoulders, but we are the wind beneath their wings. I mean, this is really, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That's that famous Martin Luther King quote. It's not lost on me watching this story, that there are young people that have an opportunity to do the things that, you know, folks like Mr. Wilkerson and other Tuskegee Airmen could only dream of. I mean, think about being able to get your pilot's license, you know, while you're in high school. Think about, you know, being able to, you know, have an after-school job. It's not just a newspaper route, but you can fly drones and get paid well. You know, that is absolutely incredible. And I'm just so glad to see, you know, so much energy across the country, obviously right here in Detroit, but also across the country, that's encouraging young people to take a second look at having a career in aviation.
And dare I say, maybe, you know, the generations thereafter, we were the wind beneath their wings. Some of them did have the forethought to know and understand that they were curating a legacy that others, you know, after them could continue to live in. And let me just say, Northwest Airlines, I remember that. I think that was before Southwest. That was a good deal to get you where you needed to go. I remember Northwest Airlines. All right.
I do.
Do
I
you?
do too. I do.
Up next, how the power of music helped so many soldiers over the years.
That's right. A descendant of Lena Horne will join us to talk about music's importance, and she'll also bring us a little bit of a treat.
Oh, come on
a
now.
little vocal treat.
We'll be right back, soulmates. Stay close. You're watching a special Memorial Day edition of Fox Soul's Black Report.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, in war and in life, music has always been a way to help us heal.
Many singers have performed for troops, one in particular, Lena Horne. Today we welcome great-grandniece of Lena Horne, Kimmy Horne. We want to welcome you to Fox Soul's Black Report.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor being here today. It really is.
As a native Detroiter, it's finally a wonderful moment to meet you. I've been watching you do what you do for years now, and you look good. And spell the name right, please. Thank you. K-I-M-M-I-E.
Thank you.
And as a lover of music and a lover of history, I have so much respect for what the incomparable Lena Horne has done for our culture and for our people. And so it's a great honor for both of us to sit here with you today.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
You know.
So we definitely want to get into, you know, your resume, but let's start with your beginnings, with your great aunt,
yes,
Lena Horne. Talk a little bit about the connection and the influence and how you continue to live in her legacy.
Oh, absolutely. She is from my the Horne side, my dad's side, and so I'm from a family of 7, and we have always, even as a little girl, you know, I've always heard her voice and always listened to her music, but at the time, I didn't even know that we were related until later on. You know, something how with history, you're right around it all the time. So sometimes you don't really embrace it as much as you should until you grow up and then you mature into this legacy. I mean, from the Horne family reunions and finding out how she used to attend the reunions and whatnot, and to be able to hear her voice and see her legacy and how she truly has been an inspiration for me as a singer. Sure. You know, I continue to carry that torch, and I sound the horn about the Hornes everywhere I go, because it really is a huge honor, you know, and so absolutely proud to be able to carry that legacy on.
And we're proud that you're here to share that legacy with us. Speaking of legacy, part of Lena Horne's great legacy is her activism. Can you talk to us a little bit about how her activism has inspired you and other members of your family to continue to carry the torch?
Absolutely. You know, I launched my jazz festival 2016, the Kimmy Horne Jazz Festival, and one of the reasons for launching that is because in terms of activism, I wanted to have one stage where I welcomed not only Black but a diverse, you know, musical family to come and share this musical legacy. And it really is, you know, just an honor to bring everyone in. It's a free outdoor festival, and it is something to be able to pour into the community. You know, we have fitness and fun. We have 9 amazing artists. So it is something to be able to bring a diverse audience and for them to be able to enjoy without having to pay a cover charge, but bring the entire family, because we have, you know, folks from 90 years old down to 3 years old, you know, and so in terms of just plugging back into the community is so important to me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
And your jazz festival has been ongoing. It's very celebrated here in the Detroit area for some years now. It's definitely something that Detroiters and folks from all over really look forward to. We're inside of Memorial Day, which kicks off the summer, and we are remembering the fallen soldier. Talk a little bit about how, you know, being a part of a holiday like this, especially with the gift that you have, the gift of music, the gift of song, how it's been healing, especially as a country, as we mourn those we've lost, in particular today, fallen soldiers, and how music has played a huge part in our healing and moving on, you know, throughout really generations.
Absolutely, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, because truly music it truly is healing, you know, and just coming up from a family, again, with that music always around. My dad was a musician. My uncle was a member of one of Motown earlier groups, the Fantastic Four. So that foundation in which I stand on.
You got it honest.
Yeah, it's honest, you know, and it's really amazing because even at a time, you know how I try to get away from it because it's just so natural. And it's like, I want to do something different. I went away to school to study journalism, as a matter of fact.
Well, hey.
And it came back full circle, you know, again, because standing in the studio with one of the Motown legends and singing, I listened back over the airways and heard my voice, and I made my decision right then. It's like, you know, this is what I should be doing. And now I'm living in my purpose with that music, and as it is a healing thing, and as we go into the hospitals, we just make sure to continue to sing. And as I always say, sound the horn. It really is about sounding the horn.
I love that.
You know, I mean, as we sit here today, the public health crisis known as the COVID-19 pandemic is over. We'd like to think that some of the darkest days are behind us. You know, what memories do you have from the pandemic that are powering your work forward? There are a lot of us that said, you know, once we get out of this thing, I'm going to show up differently.
We outside.
You know, you know, on this Memorial Day, as we're obviously thinking about our soldiers, but we're thinking about a lot of folks who've left us too soon.
Yes. You know, as that time hit us, and so many of us, I mean, it really took us in a place to where we had to really look at ourselves and see and decide what we were going to do or how we were going to go on. You know, I launched, for my own sanity, I launched a one-woman show called The Rhythm Room. And this was something that I was one-on-one and singing to the audience through Facebook and through social media, just again to be able to not just heal other people, but heal myself. And it started here. It was like my personal prayer room. So I think that giving back and continuously singing and continuously doing hymns, it saved me. And I think that through saving yourself, as they say in the airplane, you put the mask on yourself first before you can save anyone else. And I think that was profound. I mean, I got so many amazing, so much feedback, you know, about that and how that helped people. And you know, so it just helps me to continue to, you know, sing and do my thing.
For those watching today for this Memorial Day special, celebrating the holiday gathering, tuning into FOXSOUL's Black Report, just learning about Kimmy Horn. Of course, I'm a native, so I know the high-powered performance that you give. And let me tell you, soulmates, it's all about the legs. So whether you're going to have to look her up on maybe a YouTube video of past performances, or if you're in Detroit and you can catch her at your jazz festival, upcoming jazz festival. Talk about how you keep all that energy going and keep that audience just absolutely captivated. That's really what you're known for, is your in-person live performances. They are amazing.
Oh, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome so
Native
much.
Detroit.
You know, I
Thank
know.
you.
I know.
You know, I pride myself on that. You know, I've been singing now professionally for just over 30 years, and I've had the great fortune of performing all around the world. I mean, in front of ambassadors, in front of you know, mountain owners, and so with that, I have, it's just amazing sometimes, it blows me away, but I pride myself on engaging the audience because I truly feel at home on stage.
Yeah.
It is my home.
You can tell.
Yeah, it is my home.
Really
so the
tell.
energy is just, it's infectious.
You sung in front of kings and paupers.
Well, we have a treat today.
Okay.
This is a major treat. Today, you're going to sing us something to uplift us all. What are you going to sing for us today?
The Negro anthem, the Black National Anthem.
Okay,
we'll take it. All right, okay. If you thought Shirley Ralph rocked it out, get ready, because we are about to see greatness right before our very eyes.
Absolutely. We're going to let Kimmy get ready, soulmates. We want to thank you for joining us on this Memorial Day Black Report Special, Fox Soul's Black Report Special. For the full rundown on today's stories and more, you can access Fox Soul's video on demand on any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other Black-centered content. And don't forget to download the Fox Soul app. It is absolutely free.
Now here is Kimmy Horn with a rendition of the Negro National Anthem by James Weldon Johnson. Take it away, Kimmy.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as a rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought